Bem-vindos a mais um programa do Guide Your Future, nosso programa semanal sobre estudos no exterior. Meu nome é Gabriela, eu sou College Counselor do Colégio Positivo International e hoje a gente vai conversar com a Catherine, que é a International Admissions Officer da Imperial College London. A gente vai conversar um pouquinho sobre a universidade, sobre os cursos que ela oferece, sobre o processo de admissão e vamos tirar as dúvidas de vocês a respeito. Vocês podem escrever as dúvidas de vocês ali pelo chat. Se vocês não se sentirem confortáveis escrevendo em inglês, podem escrever em português que eu vou traduzindo para ela. Bom, Catherine, welcome, and thank you for accepting my invitation to be here with us today. And you can start your presentation. We're eager to see it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for welcoming me here today. So yes, I'm very happy to be talking to you all about applying to the UK and then a bit more specifically about Imperial. So I'll start my slideshow and hopefully you can see that all. Lovely. So yes, just to say, if you do want to keep in touch, there is this QR code and it'll be shared again at the end of the session if you want to keep in touch specifically about Imperial. So kicking off about the UK. So we are quite a small island, very much compared to Brazil, but I would say we punch above our weight when it comes to actually the kind of number of universities, the number of degree options for you, and the quality of the education as well. So we have well over 100 universities on our small little island, offering thousands of degree courses. One of the key characteristics of studying in the UK is that we offer specialised degrees. So you actually apply directly to a major at the point of application. So that means you can be very specific about your subject area from day one. So you can get right into studying that history degree or that physics degree really early on and go very deep into the subject area. As a result of being specialised degrees, they are shorter than in some. So actually, a bachelor's programme with us will actually only be 3 years in duration. Another key characteristic of the UK system is how you're treated as an independent learner. So you have a lot of control over your studies and how you study. So in terms of actually applying, so there are some options in terms of some universities may take direct applications. Some may be on things such as the Common App. However, strongly recommend that you familiarise yourself with UCAS. One central application system for all UK universities. So all universities are on UCAS. UCAS is also a fantastic resource to do your research, to actually look at the subjects on offer and the degree programmes, the universities. So you can go to UCAS, have a look at the subject that you're interested in, type it in, and you will find all the universities who offer that particular subject. So it's a really good place to start your research. And that really is the way you think about university in the UK. And I'll explain more around that later, but you think subject first, and then where do you want to study? So you start when you're at school, narrowing down which subjects you enjoy and thinking about what you would like to actually study at university, and then where would you like to study it? So in terms of the application, it is fairly straightforward once you kind of get used to it and get your head around it. It's all online, so you can go to the UCAS system and kind of go over to it multiple times and update your profile. You'll be looking at including things such as personal information, your academic background, what you have studied at school so far. And key to the UK system as well is actually what are you going to finish school with? So what are you going to qualify with in the IB, for example? And again, I'll talk about that more in a moment. We do ask for one reference, so that will normally come from your school. Perhaps with input from relevant subject teachers is something that we do recommend as well. So this is to back up the idea that you are a strong student to be applying to history or to physics. So having input from a physics teacher or a history teacher in that reference can really help with the application. And then the personal statement. So this is the essay you write to support your application and your chance to tell us why you're a really strong candidate to be considered for the application. And again, I'll talk about that more in a moment. At the bottom here, you see some letters, the acronyms there. Just to say, in most cases, you won't need to do additional tests to apply to UK universities. It is about what you are studying at university. However, there are some exceptions for this with some specific degree programmes. These are listed at the bottom here are some common ones. So the BMAT and the UCAT are actually admissions tests for medicine. So medicine is an undergraduate programme in the UK, which you can apply to do straight from school. But you would normally need to take one or both of these tests, depending on where you are applying to. So, for example, if you were to apply to medicine at Imperial, the BMAT test is the one we look for. Just a little word of warning around applying to medicine, that it is super competitive for international students. So whilst it is certainly possible to apply, there are a very limited number of places for medicine if you come from outside the UK. So for Imperial, we actually have one of the larger cohorts, but we only have 24 places available each year. So it is super, super competitive. All the other programmes, they're open equally. It is just those ones connected to the National Health Service in the UK. So dentistry is another one to be aware of. The LNAT test listed here is an admissions test for law that some universities may ask for. And the maths test, the MAT, is a mathematics test. So that's actually one that Imperial likes to see, also Oxford as well. So just to be aware of those. So moving on to think about the timeline, kind of when the application sort of system is running and when you would be submitting your application. So the year prior to starting university, and we start normally in the September each year at university, you're really doing your research. You're narrowing it down, first of all, as I said, to that subject that you really want to study, and then you're narrowing it down to which universities. So the UK system, the UCAS system, actually only allows you to apply to 5 degree programs. So in most cases, you will be applying to one subject at 5 different universities. So physics at 5 different universities, for example. You can perhaps choose to apply to multiple courses at one university if they are very similar programs. And again, I'll sort of explain a little bit more about that later. But in this kind of early stages of the application, this is where you're finalising your 5 choices. So just over a year before you would want to start your studies with us, that is when the UCAS system opens, sort of June, August time, and applications can be submitted by August. So this is when you're really getting your application together to start to think about submitting it. So when they open in September, in theory, you can submit your applications then, but you can leave it later. So I'll just explain the 2 kind of key deadlines. So the first deadline in UCAS is the 15th of October. So nearly a year in advance of you starting university, that first deadline is for some key programs. So medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, for example. Or if you are applying to Oxford or Cambridge University, and you can only apply to one or the other. You cannot apply to both of those. So that is the early deadline, the 15th of October. For all other programs, the deadline is the last Wednesday in January. It used to be the 15th of January. That has changed this year. So for this year, it will be the 26th of January 2022 to start that September 2022. Now, some universities will accept applications after this. You can still submit a UCAS application after this deadline. However, this is what we call the equal consideration deadline. This means that every application that is submitted by this deadline will be considered equally. So when you are thinking about the universities you apply to, if you are looking at competitive universities like Imperial, if you submit your application after the deadline, the probability will be that actually we won't actually even look at your application, because we will already have received more than enough applications by the deadline. So I really strongly urge you that you do look to stick to that deadline to give yourself the best chance of being considered by all the universities you apply to. Now, depending on the different processes at different universities, you may hear back a direct reply straight away, or you may hear back about additional information or additional sort of areas you need to go through to be considered. So that could be an internal admissions test they may ask you to do, or it could be an interview, for example. And this does vary depending on the universities and the degree programs. So once you start hearing back from the universities, you'll hear a couple of different options. If you are unsuccessful, that is the case, unfortunately, for that programme. But if you are successful, it is likely to be that you'll be given what we call a conditional offer. So there are conditional and unconditional offers in the UK system. If you are applying whilst you are still at school, it is very, very likely, and nearly 100%, it will be a conditional offer. Now, this means we think you're a really good candidate. We do really want you to come and study with us. However, as you are still pending those school qualifications, we need you to finish your school system first. We need you to, finish your IB, for example, and get the grades that we require. So there will actually be specific requirements set in the conditions of that offer that you will need to meet in order to then become an unconditional offer holder. So that is a very normal kind of system in the UK, in the UK kind of schools. That's how it works. So UK schools children will also be getting those conditional offers as well. So that's just a normal process. If everything's gone very well and you have applied to 5 universities, 5 degree programs that want you, you could end up having 5 offers, which is fantastic. You have 5 different places that want you. However, just to let you know that the UK system doesn't allow you to keep hold of all those 5 offers. So we ask you to narrow it down. So as we get to the June time, as you would be looking to start university in the September, we ask you to actually narrow those down to 2 options, your firm and insurance choice. The firm choice would be basically your number 1 choice. Where do you really want to go? That's your favourite programme, the favourite university. That's your number 1 choice. And then you have a second choice, an insurance choice. And we strongly recommend that you do make this insurance choice a backup, that insurance. So what this means is that those conditions that I mentioned, the conditional offer, we recommend that the insurance choice is set at a lower condition. So say, for example, your firm choice is asking you to get 38 points in the IB. We would say, you want to be at least a 37 or a 36, say, in the insurance choice. So that means if things don't go to plan with your pending exams, then quite possibly, you don't get to your firm choice, but then you can go to your insurance choice. I have also just thought, of course, that your timetable is a bit different over there. So potentially you could be receiving unconditional offers if you have your IB results, although there may still be requirements around English language as well. But just so you're used to that terminology. Okay, so looking at what we're actually looking for when we assess the application. So those predicted grades, or if you are applying with those grades already, that is going to be the most important thing we initially look at. We clearly outline what we are looking for the individual degree programs, and that is something that is slightly different to, say, the USA, for example. We won't have a general admissions standard or a general entry requirement for the whole university. It will be down to the individual degree programs. So, for example, at Imperial, our entry requirements for studying biological sciences in the IB would be something like 38 points with higher level biology and chemistry. However, doing something such as physics, we'll be looking for mathematics and physics, for example. So again, the subject requirements are part of that. And that's all to go back to what I said around the fact you are doing a specialised degree. We need to know that you've covered a certain subject area and reached the right grades for that. So on our website, you will actually see the IB entry requirements listed by degree programme. So it is very transparent and you can see what we are looking for. Now, just to say, they are listed as the minimum entry requirement. So having those grades isn't going to automatically mean you get a place. At competitive universities like Imperial, we do get more applications for all of our degree programs than we have places for. So how do we distinguish between the different students who have those minimum entry requirements? Well, being beyond the minimum entry requirements with higher scores will be a good thing, certainly, and that can definitely make a stronger application. But we will be looking at the rest of the application as well. So this is where the personal statement and the reference really come into play. So what we want to see in the rest of the application is really, why do you want to study this degree program? So why do you want to study physics at university, or why do you want to study history? You can talk about things you have done at school, so perhaps a particular experiment you did, or a particular period of history that you're very interested in. But we also want students to go beyond that. So again, if we have lots of students applying with the IB, lots of students could be doing the same experiment. So we want students who kind of stand out a bit more, who have actually engaged with the subject beyond just what they do at school. So how have you managed to engage with that subject? Obviously, practical experiences, particularly in the last year or two, has been very difficult. So we're not necessarily looking at work experience, but what have you done to find out more about the subject? So are you doing additional reading? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you follow YouTube channels around the subject? Have you done online courses, for example? Have you been part of a club or society at school that's relevant to it? So it is, it's all about demonstrating your interest in that particular programme. And this really is what the personal statement is all about. It is that opportunity for you as an individual to stand out from the crowd, stand out from all those applications that we receive. And it really brings the personality to the application, in terms of us knowing why you would be a strong student to come and study that particular subject with us. At the case of Imperial, our applications do end up on the desk of the admissions tutor, who will be an academic in the department that you are looking to apply to. So you really want to appeal to them as someone who would be great to teach physics to, for example. In terms of the structure, it is a limited essay, so there is a word limit on it. It's 4,000 characters. That is very strict, so you want to make sure that you are using it as usefully as possible. Now, I've got here the kind of balance that we're looking at, and again, that is very important and can be very different to if you were applying to colleges in the USA, for example. So because you are applying to that particular subject, it is very much around why you want to do that subject, rather than the whole kind of fitting into a university environment. So as I mentioned, kind of, why do you want to do that subject, and what have you done to engage with it? So we really say you're looking at 85% of those 4,000 characters to be dedicated to the subject. So it is only that small amount, that 15% around extracurriculars. So that can be sport, music, cultural interests. But what we aren't looking for is a long shopping list of activities. We're sure you're very busy, and we hope you come to university and do lots of activities with us. But this is about why you would be that excellent physics student, for example. So we'd only recommend that you include 1 or 2 extracurricular activities. And actually what we're more interested, rather than a long list of things, is what have you gained from those activities? So that could be sport, music, whatever it is that you are interested in, but we'd like to hear more depth about it. So elaborate on it. What sort of skills have you gained from those activities? And if you can relate it back to the subject you're applying to, even better. So this again, just kind of summary. So as I said, we're not looking for relevant, we're not looking for work experience necessarily, but if you do have any, then of course do include it. It's always worth being aware of kind of, latest developments in your area as well. If you do have career aspirations, then of course you can mention that, but we're not necessarily expecting you to have your whole career path written out at this stage. So just I'm going to end the kind of application part of this, just giving some tips basically around the personal statement, because it is such an important part of the application, and probably what you have the most control over beyond getting those strong grades. So do be specific when you are writing that personal statement. Do give examples and elaborate. So I call it the so what test. So rather than just writing a statement that could mean anything, I like history. So what does that mean? You want to give some examples and elaborate on specifically why you like that subject. Do personalize as well. This is the personal statement. This is from you. So we don't, need to hear that perhaps your family want you to do this program, or, friends have influenced you. This is all about your personal choice and why you're motivated to do this particular subject. reflect, and as I said, provide evidence of things. So it's all about backing up what you're saying. So showing that you've thought about something and actually can give evidence around this. Now, I said it's personal. It's about, your personal statement, but of course you can get other people to read it, comment on it, do kind of, spot for spelling mistakes, that sort of thing. So of course, do get outside input. Do be formal as well, though. So it is in your own voice, and we expect you to kind of have your own voice in there. However, it is a fairly formal piece of writing, so we're not looking for you to be quirky or be really creative in the style of writing. It's a fairly sort of straightforward, formal piece of writing. And do avoid lists. So I already mentioned kind of around things like the extracurricular activities. We'd rather you tell us about one or two things in more detail rather than trying to put in a list of 10 different activities that really don't give us a lot of detail in there. So, and then finally, so don't make vague statements or leave out supporting evidence. So, general statements around, wanting to study at university. Again, thinking back to, the fact this will potentially be an admissions tutor who's an academic in the physics department, generally saying about university life isn't really going to interest them so much. Don't also talk about a university. So I probably should have really clarified earlier, but that UCAS application that you write, actually you do only need to do one UCAS application. So all of this personal statement I'm talking about, you only have to do once. However, it does go to all 5 choices. So all 5 universities potentially that you're applying to. So you need to make sure that it is relevant to all the degree programs you're applying to. And therefore you don't want to mention specific universities, because if you're applying to 4 other universities, that's not going to look so favourably to them. So don't talk about a specific university. It's about the subject area. Should be, sort of quite natural, but no, don't plagiarize, don't lie. Of course, there are lots of examples on the internet to have a look at, and that's absolutely fine. But, don't be tempted to kind of copy chunks. So UCAS do have a system that will pick up that sort of thing. And don't kind of, waste space really in terms of including information that we can get elsewhere. So there's no need to list, the subjects you're studying in the IB, for example. We'll see that in other parts of the application. Those 4,000 characters are really valuable, so you don't want to waste them, repeating information. And in a similar way, we want your words, we want your information. So, don't include quotes unless you feel they're absolutely necessary. And if they are, make sure they are very relevant to the subject. We're not looking for generalizations here. And we would, prefer those 4,000 characters all come from you, really. Okay, so that's kind of the application side of things and general UCAS information. I know there's quite a lot of information there. Obviously, you'll hopefully get a recording of this, but I'm really happy to elaborate afterwards on any points that aren't clear and answer any questions on that. So I thought I'd now just kind of move on to talk a bit specifically about Imperial. As I said, you can keep in touch with us following that QR code if you do want updates. And again, it will be on the slide at the end as well. So a bit about us. So we are quite unique in the UK, as we are actually the only university to solely focus on science, engineering and business. So we're a really kind of focused university on those areas. In terms of our size, we are a medium-sized university in the UK, just over around 22,500 students, and that is roughly half undergraduates and half postgraduates. Now, we are, a focused university, and we're pretty good at what we do. So when you generally look at kind of world and UK rankings, we are often there in the top 10. We're actually incredibly proud and excited to announce as well this year, the Times paper and Sunday Times Good University Guide have been named as the University of the Year for 2022. And actually that's things such as our student satisfaction rates actually going up in the pandemic. So how hard we worked to make sure that we delivered a really high quality education still for our students, and we've actually we're University of the Year for student experience as well, so we're really proud of that. And speaking of all the work we've been doing, obviously being a sort of sciencey university, perhaps you have heard of us in the news over the last year or so, really kind of being at the forefront of the fight against COVID-19. So whether that's our epidemiologists and our scientists advising both national and international governments on how to deal with the pandemic. We have our own vaccine programme that's still progressing under Professor Robert Shattuck. We have developed, our bioengineers have and electronic engineers have developed rapid testing to things such as cheap ventilator production, which are actually looking to roll out, still continuing with that as well. And even things such as our final year medics actually pushed ahead and graduated slightly earlier so that they could really get out there and start working as doctors in the NHS during the pandemic. So really proud of the response of our students and staff during the last year and a half or so. Bit more in terms of kind of our characteristics. So we are incredibly international. We have well over half our students come from outside the UK, and that's from over 140 countries. So it's a really cosmopolitan environment, and we feel this is a really real benefit to you in the classroom. So when you come and study with us, you're not just going to get a British perspective on things. You're going to get ideas and inputs from around the world, both from your colleagues and your peers and your fellow students, and also our academic teaching staff as well. In that, we do reflect the city we are in. Obviously, London is an incredibly diverse city, so we do kind of fit very nicely into that. Our main teaching campus is located in South Kensington. So if anyone has actually been to London as a tourist, you may well have walked past our doors, as we are located next to some of the famous museums, such as the Natural History Museum, the Science Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum. The tower you see there in the middle of the picture, that is the Queen's Tower in the heart of our South Kensington campus, which is our main undergraduate teaching campus. The green space there is Hyde Park, so it is a really lovely area to be part of. Now, I obviously say it's a great city, but it's not just me who says that. So for a number of years in a row, actually, so this is 2019, it has actually come out again this year that London has been voted QS Best Student City. So that is for things such as networking opportunities, international outlook, and student experience. So it is a great place to be a student. This rather cool map is just to give you a kind of idea how we're located compared to the rest of the city. So the colourful lines, famous London Underground, so you see how well connected it is. And the highlighted in yellow areas there is South Kensington campus with Hyde Park I mentioned. But you can see we're very close to the river, the Thames. You see the tower there of Big Ben and the London Eye. Not far from Buckingham Palace, for example. So we are really kind of in the heart of the city. So it's a bit of a cliche, but our students do get to use London as their extended campus when they are studying with us. Also, London is a fantastic place to start thinking about things such as networking and career opportunities as well. And our career service are very much plugged into the London scene for that. Many of our students will do an internship during their time with us, as they do have all these major companies on their doorstep. So I mentioned that we are a specialist university, but we do offer a very wide range of programs within this area. So, for example, students wouldn't come and do a general engineering program with us. They would go to one of 9 different departments to do an engineering program. So starting off aeronautical, bioengineering, chemical, civil and environmental, computing, for example, design engineering, earth sciences, which has a range of programs such as geology and earth and planetary sciences, electrical and electronic engineering, material science and engineering, and mechanical engineering. You'll see here I have listed the 3-year BEng or the 4-year MEng options. So I did say right at the beginning how our degrees are shorter in the UK, and that is the case at Imperial. A bachelor's degree would be 3 years in duration. However, you will see that actually a lot of our programmes offer a 4-year option. This means that you would do 4 years continuous with us and actually finish with a master's level qualification. So it's an integrated master's programme. Moving on to our Faculty of Natural Sciences, we have chemistry, mathematics, and then quite a wide range of programme in the life sciences. So from biochemistry, biotechnology, and biological sciences, programmes like ecology, for example. Again, you'll see the 3-year option, and some of these departments will have the 4-year MSci programme as well. The Faculty of Medicine has our undergraduate medicine programme, which is 6 years with us. And then we have our medical biosciences programme. So those who are interested in being part of, being in the lab. Actually, the programme was redesigned in partnership with industry, which is a real characteristic of Imperial in terms of making sure we are training up people who are relevant to industry so that you can go into the world of work, after you leave us and know really what you're doing. And then just to mention the business schools. So currently we only offer graduate degrees in business, but we do offer full degrees, but we do offer some joint options. So you can do a joint program with management in chemistry, life sciences, or medical bioscience. So that's like a dual major, so a joint program. You can also access the business school through some of our other initiatives, so one-off classes you can do. And then from 2023 entry, we will actually be introducing our first undergraduate business full degree. At the moment, I don't unfortunately have any full details on this, but if that is the programme you're interested in for 2023, do check back on the website, as details should be up quite soon. So just to talk, obviously I sort of spoke about the application process, but just to kind of highlight a bit more about our entry requirements. As I said on the online prospectus, by each individual degree programme, we will list the IB entry requirements. So it's really quite easy to see what you need in terms of the IB. But the range, it's not much of a range. It's between 38 and 40 points. So we are certainly on the higher end of thing. And also we will have specific requirements around higher levels. So I mentioned there, things such as biological sciences, needing higher level higher level biology, higher level chemistry, our engineering programs requiring higher level maths, for example, and potentially physics. There is a English language requirement. Quite possibly you might meet that through the IB. It will depend. So a standard level grade 5, I believe it is, for English would actually do that. But otherwise, of course, you've got IELTS, TOEFL, and the other ways to meet that. I mentioned some of those specific admissions tests. So just to remind you that for medicine, we do look for the BMAT. Mathematics asked for the MAT test, or you may have a condition to do the STEP paper, which is the Cambridge maths test. And again, computing actually might include STEP in the conditions of an offer. So they're just to be aware of those. In terms of interviews, most of our departments will interview now. So they'll generally be online for students who live outside the UK, but that's just something to be aware of. But I always say, think about the application first and think about the interviews. We'll give you plenty of information about that, as that is after the application. So just giving you some information around kind of the fees, also to kind of say around scholarships. That is one thing, unfortunately, that isn't that, that available, I guess, in the UK. So the scholarships we do have are fairly small. So, do your research, and each university will be different, and there may be different options depending on the different degree programs. But we don't have many of those kind of big golden tickets where you'll have your full tuition fees paid for. So most of the time they're worth a couple of £1,000s, and they're normally merit based. So that's just something to be aware of. This gives you an indication of the kind of tuition fees. They will vary depending on the university and depending on the degree programme. Because we offer very technical degrees, sciences, engineering, you will see that our tuition fees are quite high. So you're looking at over £32,000 per year. And what you'll find across the UK is the more technical programs will be more expensive, with things such as humanities being cheaper. So just to kind of talk a bit more about what Imperial offers, in terms of kind of outside the classroom to a certain extent, or kind of beyond the core study areas. So one new thing we've offered in the last couple of years, which has been really exciting, is what we call our I Explore programme. So this means that every student will take a class outside of their department. So, I said we're STEM focused, and our students come in and they love their, science, their mathematics, their engineering programmes, and they could do another class in a different science or engineering program if they wish. But it is also a chance to do something such as business or humanities, languages, for example. So it's just a way to give them a kind of a more rounded experience. As I said, the UK system is very subject specific, but we want them to have the ability to take part in other subjects as well. Other things on offer at Imperial, given the nature of the programs we offer, our students are really interested in research. So we're really pleased to offer the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Programme, one of the few UK universities to offer this. Now, many students will do a research project during their degree as well. So normally in their final year, they will be undertaking some independent research as well. But the Europe scheme allows them to take part in research projects going on at the university, so what our academics are researching. The international version of that, the IROP scheme, allows them to go and do a summer placement at some of our partners such as MIT in the USA. We then have things such as our exploration board, so students can apply to carry out research with an adventurous spirit as well. So we've had students climbing in China and bouldering in Bolivia, all in the name of science. And then the Racing Green team is around building zero carbon emission cars, very popular with our mechanical engineers in particular. And actually the Racing Green team a few years ago now, but became the first team to actually complete the whole Pan American highway in a zero carbon emission car. So they've gone pretty far with it. And just to also highlight that other opportunities for our students to get involved, we know our students are incredibly bright and have fantastic ideas, so we want to support them in this. So innovation has been, and enterprise has been something that's been really big on campus in the last few years. So all our students, no matter which department they are studying in, for free can go along and access things like our Hat Space network. So even if they're studying a theoretical program such as mathematics, they can go along and use prototyping equipment, so make things into a physical reality. All our students can also go along to the enterprise lab. So for example, in the Hackspace, they've made something, prototype. What do they do with it? How do they get it out there to the wider world? Well, going along to the enterprise lab, they can take part in pitching schemes, mentorship schemes, pitching competitions, and learn how to make their idea into a viable business. Since the enterprise lab was launched in 2016, you can see here it's raised over £200 million of investment and actually supported over 230 student startups in just the last 5 years. And then if that's not all enough, there's obviously just kind of enjoyment and sort of social aspects to university life as well. So generally in the UK, you will find the student union is a very big part of student life. So every university will have a student union, and it's your chance to, socialise, try new things, take part in activities. So you see here, actually, we have, this year it's gone up again to over 380 different clubs and societies. So this range from all the sort of sports you might want to get involved in, and that's at all levels. So our football teams, we have teams A to F. So no matter what your ability, you can get involved. Also, things like music and dance are available. Being a techie university, we actually offer things like a robotics society, a drone society, but also being very British, we have a tea drinking society. So there are lots of options to get involved in. So as much as I was saying the application, we're not so interested in those extracurricular activities. As I said, that doesn't mean that we're not hoping you'll get involved in lots of things when you actually arrive on campus. Just to mention in terms of accommodation, so one thing that's perhaps different to some other places in terms of how accommodation works, generally in the UK, you'll find that students only spend their first year living in university halls of residence. So some may apply to stay on. However, the majority of housing is reserved for first year students. So we do guarantee students a place in our halls of residence, providing they kind of do all the paperwork on time, and 90% of the undergraduates in their first year do live in our halls. However, in the UK, the norm then is to get together with a group of friends and actually look at private housing options. So we do have support services and accommodation service that support students in doing this. but that really is kind of often the way it happens in the UK. That it's 1 year in halls and you kind of make friends, and then you go on that next step on the road to kind of independence, living in a house with friends. If you do want to kind of continue that more dorm environment, the good thing about somewhere like London is that we have lots of private providers. So you could go and stay in another dorm environment with students from other universities as well. So there are a couple of different options. And just to highlight some of the support services available to you. So each of our undergraduate students will have an academic tutor to help support them in terms of their academics and kind of settling into university life. But then there's lots of student representatives as well as independent advisory services as well. So whether that's through the union I mentioned, our student counselling and mental health advice service, our disability advisory service, but also then there are additional support for international students. So our international student support team will help you through things such as the visa process when you actually apply, to actually settling in when you do get to us. So they do kind of trips to the theatre, for example, or other cities so that you can meet other international students as well. Also to highlight that as part of the visa application process for the UK, you do have to pay a surcharge to the NHS. But this means then when you arrive, you have free at the point of access to the National Health Service. So the doctors, hospitals, everything is there for you to use as if you were a UK citizen. So that's that's a bonus as well. And then just finally, to highlight other sort of resources available to our students, our careers support. So they are there from day one to support students in, deciding on your career and then connecting you with future employers. Also, great news in the last couple of years is the introduction of the graduate worker route in the UK. So now students, when they graduate from us, can stay automatically in the UK for up to 2 years. Previously, you had to have a job lined up and be paid a certain wage in order to stay, but now even if you haven't actually lined a job up, you can stay and then look for work. So that's a great opportunity to gain some work experience staying with us. All of the support, our career service will actually be available to students up to 3 years after they graduate, and that includes things such as our online vacancy service, which is international as well. So plenty of opportunities, to sort of find out about jobs, not just in the UK but internationally as well. And then kind of to wrap everything up, just to say, kind of all of what I've been talking about lends to the fact that we do have some fantastic employability rates for our graduates. So in the UK, we are actually #1 in terms of graduate prospects, and we have some of the best starting salaries of any UK university. And we have trained, leaders, great scientists, business leaders, top engineers, top medics. Our students do go on to work in industries such as the Formula One industry, the space industry. But I will just kind of finally leave you with an example of one of the students who took one of those entrepreneurial journeys I mentioned earlier. So one of our students was out there on the wards one day, Dr. Fai Ong, studying medicine, obviously a demanding degree program, and he actually saw one of his patients struggling to eat a bowl of soup as her hand was tremoring so much with Parkinson's disease. He was inspired to go along to the hack space I mentioned and prototype things, make things, and eventually settled on the design of a hand stabilizing glove. Once he was happy with this product, he went along to the enterprise lab I talked about, and he was actually awarded a €1.8 million investment of his product gyro gear whilst he was still studying with us. Actually, this year, so that was a few years ago, his company has been awarded a further $4.3 million investment. So, still very much in development. And our alumni are across the globe doing fantastic things. So we also have a service called Plexus for our graduates, whereby they can connect with each other, do things such as offer job vacancies on there so that they know, they're getting top quality interest from fellow alumni as well. So our students really are across the globe doing many great things. Okay, I know that was a lot of information from me, but hopefully you still do potentially want to find out a bit more about Imperial. So just to highlight on the website, these links here, we do have a campus tour, so virtual tour, so please do take a look at that. Also, I would really highlight our chat to our student scheme, so you can actually reach out to our students and ask them what their programme is. I have to mention we have Isabella, one of our Brazilian students who studies mechanical engineering, who's fantastic, so please do reach out to her as well. Also to mention, we do have a summer school as well. So if you're interested in coming and doing a taster program for 2 weeks with us in science, engineering or medical sciences, then that could be an option. There's also my email address there. So I'm really happy to follow up with any individual questions afterwards as well. But of course, very happy to answer any questions you might have now. So I'm just going to close my slides so I can see everything again.
Okay, so thank you so much. That was really invaluable information. I think it's going to help our students greatly in their application process. As I mentioned, we have a very different admissions process here in Brazil, so I'm always trying to get them used to the steps they have to take, like the personal essays, the letters of recommendation. We don't really have that culture here. So I think this is really invaluable information for them, so thank you. We have a question here from Paola.
Right.
She's one of our high school seniors, and I know she's interested in applying to UK universities. This is something that's a very common question for our students regarding the IB requirements, because we know that the UK is stricter with the IB requirements. So she's asking, what happens if the student doesn't have the required subjects? What happens if the school doesn't offer a higher level subject? What can they do?
So it is going to be a little bit difficult in most cases, I would say. So part of that is, as I said, you're coming to do a specific subject at university. So we need to know, for example, you've covered certain areas in maths in order to do the program and to do well on the program. So we only want, students to come and be given a place that we're confident will do well on the program. The options you do have, obviously, we do realise, sometimes it is the fact that you don't have that opportunity to do it in the IB if those high levels aren't offered. So the way around it, I kind of say, if there's any way you can meet the requirements through a different qualification, so for example, an advanced placement, if that were to be an option for you, that could be something that would work. What I would say as well, do check with the different universities as well. So, coming from Imperial, we're probably one of the more strict universities around that, and some other universities may be a bit more lenient. Also to say that, some subjects don't have so some degrees don't have subject requirements. So you will generally find the sciences and engineering, they will be looking for those, but you might find other programs that won't be as well. So, do your research, ask around, but it could potentially be difficult in some cases.
Yeah, what I usually do is I contact the university, the admissions office, and ask them about the requirements and if there's any way around it, a different course or different. But in any case, if that doesn't work, do you offer at Imperial a foundation year or something like it?
So we don't, but yes, a lot of UK universities do. So that could be an alternative option as well. So we don't currently, and we're again quite strict on in who we accept. So we only accept students who've done the science programs either at UCL or Warwick. So we're quite limited in that, but certainly that would be an option for a lot of universities.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So do you guys have any more questions? Mais alguma pergunta para Catherine sobre o processo de admissão, sobre o Imperial College? Qualquer coisa vocês podem escrevendo por aqui. We had another student asking, I think it was Paula's brother actually, asking about students who may have residency in London. Okay, how does the financial part works for them if they have a citizenship? I don't think any of our students have a British citizenship, but if they do have a residency in London, does that have an impact on the financial and the tuition?
Yeah, grey area, and there are lots of things come into it. What generally the rule would be is, are you living in the UK as a family? So if your family are in the UK and perhaps you're just over here studying for a short time, then you could potentially, that would be fine. You'd be a UK student, but just having, residency or having a passport, for example, isn't normally enough. What would happen, though, is that we wouldn't be able to say for certain until you submit an application. So the application is assessed, and if you were given an offer, it would say that you have been classed either as an international student or as a home fee payer student. If you thought you had a good case to be considered for the home fee status, what you can then do is ask for a questionnaire that each university will have. So it will be individual to the university. And then you provide evidence. So things such as residency and things like that. And then they will look at that in detail again and reassess it and potentially change their mind or not. It does depend. So it's not something we can say for certain. But yeah, that's kind of the process you would go through.
We will analyze case by case, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. You mentioned the IB requirement for English. Here at Positivo, we offer English higher level. With what score would you require? And would our students have to take the IELTS or TOEFL if they meet this requirement?
It's so let me just double check. So we would accept it with standard level as well. I just need to check which English we accept. So we would take English A, language and literature, English A, literature, or English B, either at standard or higher level, grade 4 for English A or grade 6 for English B.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. It will make their lives easier. That's great. Do you guys have any more questions? Paola, Enrico, if you're watching us. I'd just like to thank you so much for your time.
No worries.
I know it's late in London right now. So thank you for accepting my invitation. It was very helpful. I'm always telling them, to dream big, that they can make it. So this was really great.
No, thank you for having me.
From someone who's
feel free to reach out with any questions in the future as well.
Thank you so much. And if you guys have any questions regarding Imperial College, you can come to me and I can talk to Catherine. We can work together. And if you want to apply, we can definitely contact her and work together on your application. Ok? Então, gente, muito obrigada. Qualquer pergunta, qualquer dúvida que vocês tenham, vocês podem me procurar aqui no colégio e eu estou à disposição para ajudá-los. Tá bom? Obrigada e boa noite. Tchau,
boa noite. Obrigada.